Welcome to the Brilliant Board Review Podcast, your trusted source for high-yield board prep, CME, and the latest in clinical medicine.
Now let's talk about metformin in stage 4 chronic kidney disease. Now, metformin is excreted renally, as we discussed. It's contraindicated for GFR less than 30. You're supposed to stop it. Well, this was an analysis of the Scottish National Database, and the data was reviewed of patients who continued accidentally. Now, you say accidentally. Well, we find a lot of things out accidentally. You realize that beta blockers, which sat on the shelf for an estimated 30 years before they realized that inverse calcium channel blockers, they were actually better in certain cases for reducing mortality patients with MI. So we find out a lot of things about in medicine accidentally. So these people continue to take the medications. Who knows why? Maybe they were told not to and they still took them. Maybe the provider forgot to take them. Maybe they didn't have a lot of follow-up appointments. We were at stage 4 and 5 with the GFR less than 30, and they took it for greater than 6 months in this analysis. So once they stopped, they say, oh, crud, we need to stop taking this. They actually had a higher 3-year all-cause mortality for those who stopped the metformin, and then those who continued the metformin. So they did analysis of people who were supposed to stop and did stop the medications, and those who did not stop the medications. Those who continued the medications had a lower 3-year all-cause mortality. Now, the leading cause of death for both these groups were cancer, respiratory diseases, and cardiovascular events. The incidence of major adverse cardiovascular events did not differ between groups. The groups that continued taking the metformin, even though we weren't supposed to, and those who stopped. But significantly fewer respiratory deaths occurred in the metformin to people who continued metformin. No one really knows why. That's a confounder in this. About half the patients who stopped the metformin, who continued the metformin during the study, eventually stopped. So somebody eventually said, hey, you need to stop this. Your kidney function is worse. You need to stop this. So why the respiratory deaths were lower in those who continued the medication is currently unknown. But this kind of gives us an idea is that, yes, you probably don't want to go less than 30. There is a risk for lactic acidosis and other metabolic derangements. But at least we know we can get to 30 with this data, and possibly in the future, you need future study to see if the patient has CKD work and continue this medication.
Thanks for listening. Visit brilliantcourses.com to learn more and claim credits for this educational activity. See you next time.